So this video kicks things off by defining welding. And it says it's a process of joining similar or dissimilar materials with or without pressure.
Okay.
Involving heating and fusion.
Well, let's break it down and focus on the two most common ones you'll probably encounter in a lot of welding jobs.
Oh, sounds good.
We've got SMAW, which stands for shielded metal arc welding.
But most people know it as stick welding, right?
Exactly, stick welding. And it's super versatile. You see it on construction sites, repair shops.
Yeah, it's used all over the place.
So with SMA, you're using a consumable electrode, and that means it actually melts into the weld.
So like a hot glue gun, but for metal.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
And then you've got GTA, which stands for gas tungsten arc welding.
Now that one sounds a bit more high-tech.
It is.
A lot of people call it TIG welding.
TIG. Yeah, and that's short for tungsten inert gas.
Ah, okay, so that's where the tungsten comes in.
Right. With TIG, you're using a non-consumable tungsten electrode to create the arc.
Okay, so it doesn't melt away like the stick welding electrode?
Exactly. And you often add filler metal separately with TIG.
Interesting.
It's all about precision and control with TIG. So it's perfect for those jobs that require super clean, high-quality welds.
Yeah, I can see why that would be important in certain industries.
Definitely. But wouldn't that take way longer than Santo?
It can, yeah. TIG welding can be more time-consuming.
And probably more expensive too, right?
Yeah, it often is.
But that precision is essential in certain fields like, aerospace or medical device manufacturing, where any tiny flaw could be a huge problem.
You don't want any mistakes there.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So knowing the strengths and weaknesses of each process.
Right.
That's key for answering those interview questions.
Makes sense. So if I'm going into an interview just knowing SEMA and GTA inside and out,
Yeah.
that's a good starting point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Being able to compare and contrast those two.
Right.
Explain when you'd use one over the other. That shows that you really understand the craft.
It shows you're not just a button pusher.
Right. Okay, so let's jump into some of those specific interview questions.
Okay, let's do it.
What is WPS and PQR?
I'll be honest, I'm not even sure what those stand for.
They're essential in the welding world, but yeah, those acronyms can be intimidating.
Okay, break it down for me.
All right, so WPS stands for Welding Procedure Specification.
Okay.
Think of it like a detailed recipe for how to perform a specific weld.
A recipe, okay, I can get behind that.
It outlines everything from the materials you'll use to the welding parameters.
So it's all about consistency and quality control.
Exactly, making sure every weld meets those standards.
So where does PQR come in?
Yes, PQR stands for Procedure Qualification Record.
Okay.
And it's basically the proof that the WPS is good.
So like a test run.
Kind of. It's a document that says, hey, we followed the recipe and it worked.
So it's about traceability and making sure everything meets the standards.
Exactly. It ensures that those welds are strong, safe, and high quality.
But how would this come up in an interview?
Right. It's not like they're going to ask, define WPS.
Probably not.
But you can weave that knowledge into your answers.
Oh, I see.
If they ask about your experience with a certain welding process, you can say something like, I've worked with that process extensively and I'm familiar with developing and following WPSs.
Okay.
To ensure consistent high-quality welds that meet the project specifications.
That sounds way more professional than just saying, yeah, I know how to weld.
Exactly. It shows that you understand the bigger picture.
Yeah, it's not just about laying down a bead. It's about the whole process.
So listeners, keep those terms in your back pocket. You never know when they might come in handy.
Great advice. Yeah, it throws in a question that really gets to the heart of understanding welding.
Oh, okay, shoot.
What is the difference between an electrode and a filler wire?
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah, it's easy to get those confused.
Especially when you're just starting out.
Right. So remember when we were talking about semi or stick welding?
Yeah.
That electrode you're using, it's actually melting away and becoming part of the weld?
It's consumable, right?
Exactly. It's consumed during the process.
Okay, so in stick welding, the electrode is the filler metal.
Basically, yeah.
But what about those other processes where you have a separate filler wire?
Right. So with GTA or TIG welding, you're using a non-consumable electrode. Usually made of tungsten.
Right, tungsten.
Yeah.
And that creates the arc, but you still need to add more metal to the weld.
To actually join the pieces together.
Exactly, and that's where the filler wire comes in.
Okay, so the filler wire is like extra material.
Yeah, you can think of it like that.
But it doesn't carry the electrical current.
Right, it just melts into the weld pool from the heat of the arc.
That makes sense.
Now, I bet there are tons of different types of electrodes and filler wires out there.
Oh, I'm sure.
How do you know which one to use? Well, that's where your knowledge of the welding process comes in and the materials you're working with.
Makes sense.
If an interviewer asks you about this, they really want to see how deep your understanding goes.
So it's not just a yes or no answer.
No, you got to show them, your stuff.
So what kind of things could I say?
Well, for example, you could mention how you would choose a 60-10 electrode
Okay.
for deep penetration on dirty or rusty steel in SEMSI,
Okay.
or how you'd opt for an ER70S2 filler wire for welding mild steel in GTAP.
So that's impressive. I'm taking notes.
It shows that you've got that practical knowledge.
It's not just theory.
Exactly. You've actually worked with these things.
Right. Okay, so let's move on to another question.
Okay, you ready for this one?
Get me.
This one's all about problem solving.
Oh, okay.
The classic interview question. What are some common welding defects and how do you prevent them?
Ooh, that is a good one.
It's designed to assess your technical knowledge, but also your ability to think on your feet.
So it's not just about knowing the names of the defects.
You have to understand why they happen.
And how to fix them.
Exactly.
Yes.
So let's say you're in the hot seat and they throw this question at you.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
What are some of the defects you should be prepared to discuss?
Okay, well, I know porosity is a big one.
Porosity, yeah, those little gas pockets trapped in the weld metal.
Right. What causes those?
Well, it could be a few things. Improper shielding gas coverage, contaminated base metal, even welding too fast.
So if the metal cools down too quickly?
Exactly. Those gas bubbles don't have time to escape.
And they get trapped.
Right. And then you've got undercut.
Undercut.
Which is that groove along the toe of the weld.
Oh, I've seen that before.
Yeah, where the base metal hasn't been properly fused.
So it's like a weak spot.
It can be. And that's often caused by using too high of a current or having the wrong electrode angle.
So technique plays a big role.
Absolutely. And cracking is another one.
Cracking, that sounds bad.
It can be, especially in situations when the weld needs to be really strong and durable.
Right. So what causes cracking?
Well, it could be things like improper preheating or post-weld heat treatment.
Okay.
Or using the wrong filler metal for the base metals you're joining.
So a lot of factors to consider.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's say I've rattled off a few common defects. How do I really impress them with my knowledge of prevention?
That's where you showcase your understanding of good welding practices.
All right, show me what you got.
You want to talk about maintaining a consistent travel speed.
Okay.
Using the right amperage and voltage settings. And making sure you have that proper gas coverage to prevent porosity.
Right.
For undercut, you'd emphasize having that correct electrode angle and controlling the heat input.
So it's all about precision and control.
It really is.
It sounds like a lot of it comes down to experience.
Absolutely. The more you weld, the better you get at recognizing these defects and preventing them.
Right.
But even if you're just starting out, you can show them you're eager to learn and you're paying attention to detail.
That's a good point.
All right, so listeners don't just memorize a list of defects. Take the time to understand what causes them and how to avoid them.
That's what will set you apart in that interview.
Now, this video we're using, it also touches on the history of welding a little bit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And while that might not seem directly related to an interview,
right,
I think it actually gives you some valuable context.
How so?
Well, understanding how welding evolved from those early blacksmithing techniques to the sophisticated technology we have today, it shows that you appreciate the craft.
Yeah, it's not just a job, it's a skill with a long history.
Exactly, and it shows that you're interested in more than just the technical aspect.
You see the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm ready for another question.
All right, this is a little bit more personal.
Okay, bring it on.
Tell me about a time you faced a challenging welding project and how you overcame it.
Oh, wow, that's a tough one.
It is, but it's also a chance to showcase your problem-solving skills.
And tell a story.
Exactly. Everyone loves a good story.
Okay, so how do I make my story stand out?
Well, think about a project that really pushed you outside your comfort zone.
Okay.
Maybe you had to improvise or come up with a creative solution. Walk the interviewer through the problem, the steps you took to address it, and the outcome.
So like a before, during, and after?
Exactly.
Okay, I think I have a story in mind.
Perfect. Now, remember, you want to highlight those skills and how you applied them to overcome that obstacle.
So don't just say it was hard.
Right. Give them the details.
Show them what you did.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm ready.
Awesome.
Before we wrap up this part, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Passion and enthusiasm.
Ah, yes. Those are so important.
Skills can be taught, but passion, that's got to come from within.
And interviewers can spot that right away.
So even if I'm nervous, I should let my love for welding shine through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ask questions, engage in the conversation, show them you're excited about the opportunity.
Oh, got it.
All right, so that's it for part 2 of our welding interview deep dive.
Wow, we covered a lot of ground.
We did, from welding defects to personal anecdotes.
It's been a wild ride.
But we're not done yet.
There's more.
In part 3, we'll tackle even more challenging questions and give you some final tips to help you nail that interview and launch your welding career.
Can't wait.
Deep divers, are you ready for the final round of our welding interview prep?
I'm ready to bring the heat.
I like it. I like it. So in this last part, we're going to tackle some of those really big picture questions.
The ones that really make you think.
Exactly the ones that show you're not just a welder, but a problem solver, a critical thinker.
Okay. Yeah, ready for that.
So let's jump right into it.
That's good.
How do you ensure quality in your welds?
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty broad.
It is, but it's your chance to really shine.
Okay, so how do I approach a question like that?
You want to demonstrate that you're not just going through the motions.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that quality is everything in welding.
Right. A bad weld can have some serious consequences.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So first off, you want to talk about following procedures.
Like those WPSs we talked about.
Exactly. Those welding procedure specifications, they're your roadmap to a good weld.
Makes sense.
Talk about how you meticulously follow those procedures every step of the way.
So show them I'm detail-oriented.
Exactly. And don't forget about pre-weld inspections.
Oh, right. You got to make sure everything's clean and ready to go.
Yeah. Check the base metal for any contaminants. Make sure you have the right filler material.
Verify your equipment.
It's like a surgeon prepping for surgery.
Everything has to be perfect.
And just like a surgeon, you need to explain how you monitor the weld as you're making it.
Okay. So talk about maintaining the right travel speed.
Exactly. Making sure the arc is stable, that you have good gas coverage.
So basically showing that I'm paying attention the whole time.
Exactly. You're not just blindly laying down a bead.
You're in control.
Right. And then what about after the weld is done?
Post-weld inspection.
Exactly. What steps do you take to make sure that weld meets the standards?
Well, I visually inspect it for any obvious defects.
Good.
And depending on the project, we might do some non-destructive testing.
Like dye penetrant or magnetic particle inspection?
Exactly.
That shows you're really going the extra mile.
Quality is key.
Okay, so another question that I think is really interesting from this video.
Okay, what is it?
It's, tell me about a time you faced a challenging welding project and how you overcame it.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's all about storytelling.
Oh, I like a good story.
This is your chance to connect with the interviewer on a personal level.
Show them my personality.
Exactly. And highlight those problem-solving skills.
So don't just give a boring answer.
No, you got to bring it to life.
Paint a picture.
Exactly.
Okay, so I should pick a project that was really tough.
Yeah, one that pushed you outside your comfort zone.
Maybe where I had to get creative.
Exactly. Walk them through the problem.
The steps I took.
And the outcome.
Okay, so like a beginning, middle, and end.
Exactly.
Okay, I think I have a story in mind.
Perfect. Now remember, the key here is to show them what you learned from that experience.
How I grew as a welder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because every challenge is an opportunity to learn and improve.
I like that.
So yeah, think about those tough projects, those moments where you really had to think outside the box.
And how I turned that challenge into a success. Those are the stories that'll make us stand out.
And you know what else makes you stand out?
What's that?
Enthusiasm.
Ah, yes. You've said it before, passion is key.
It really is. Skills can be taught, but passion, that's got to come from within.
And that's something you can't fake.
Nope. So even if you're nervous in that interview, let your love for welding shine through.
Okay, I'll try to channel my inner welding superhero.
I love it. All right. So that brings us to the end of our welding interview deep dive.
Wow, that went by fast.
I know, right?
Wait.
We covered so much ground, from the basics of welding to those tricky interview questions.
I feel like I learned a lot.
I did too, and I hope our listeners feel prepared and confident to go out there and rock those interviews.
Yeah, go get them.
Exactly. And remember, this video, we've been using welding interview questions, Hindi, English, welding interview questions, and answers welding interview.
Huh.
It's a fantastic resource.
Yeah, lots of great information in there.
And we'll be sure to include links to some other helpful resources in the show notes. So keep practicing, keep learning, and keep that welding torch burning bright.
Yeah, thanks for having